All very well. What are some specific MOs that we see? Now, there's many, right? So I'm not going to bore you with a whole list, but two ones that I'll just highlight. First one is a classic case of item not received or something that doesn't exist, in this case, tickets. There's a known UK fraudster out there, which some of you may know, who has been investigated for more than £40 million worth of ticket fraud around the world. Not on PayPal, by the way. There's a very small proportion of that he tried to get through PayPal. He bought a company that had been previously vetted. We checked it out. We said it was good. We gave it a thumbs up. We allowed it onto the platform. Traded with us for 4 years, not a problem. Nothing, a nice amount of revenue coming in every month, no issue, delivered tickets. Sold the company to this guy. We didn't know about this. Of course, they didn't tell us, obviously. And then suddenly they just ramped up the activity, and within a month they were selling about 10 times more tickets than they used to. Now, obviously, that's a significant change in behavior that we catch very quickly. So we did catch it very quickly. But inevitably, because of the internet, I put up a ticket, it can sell within a second. So inevitably, there were victims, buying victims in this case, who spent money for very well-known concerts, for example, and of course did not get the ticket. So of course we quickly identify, close it down, we pay the money to the buyers, and then we figure out, okay, now what do we do about getting this money back, because the guy's taken it out very quickly. We work with law enforcement. It's with the courts and law enforcement as we speak. Just an example of how it can happen. Case 2, this is much more international. It's much more e-crime oriented. International spoofing targeting the PayPal accounts. Login details were acquired by a variation of malware and phishing based for a Ukrainian group who were doing it. It's funny how organized this really is. It's a real business out there, and one group go after harvesting the information. Another group then check the information is correct. So you see sort of peeking and checking coming in from, in this case, it was Asian IPs, mostly in China. And then you see them, they've checked it, and they sift out ones that might not be good or worthless, and they pass it on to, or sell it, not pass it on, they sell it to another group who are then going to actually go monetize that information. And this group, again, we're an Eastern European group in this particular case, and they were very, very organized. It's an ongoing investigation, by the way. So far, we've had 11 arrests, cases with law enforcement. But they were basically buying goods with stolen credit cards, attaching them to stolen PayPal accounts, buying high-cost goods, shipping them to addresses that they found either in a phone book or they knew were just down the road from where they were living in London, and intercepting that delivery, knowing that the people who actually live at that house, complete innocent, or not victims, completely innocent people, were not going to be home because they were at work. And these are mules. People who have been paid to do this. They get a little money off the top. They then pass the item on to Eastern Europe, or they sell it on and pass the money on to Eastern Europe. Highly organized, global ring, significant activity. It talks to a lot of what Ed and other people have been covering. So this is how we see it actually impacting our business at PayPal. So how do we structure ourselves to minimize this? I got this little juggler guy a couple of times because it does feel like that sometimes. There's so many bits up in the air that we need to keep up in the air. And the way we structure ourselves very broadly in terms of our team and people, we have global information security team. These are the guys who deal with the DDoS attacks and the hacking attempts. And these are guys who take customer data, build a very thick wall around it, and protect it from any kind of attacks. They do work closely with global law enforcement on the very broad international cases. Global risk management. So these are about 250 people around the world who have very diverse experience. So they're working on policy and awareness and detection and prevention, multiple different things, very customer-facing. This is ex-police officers, people with MBAs, doctors of statistical analysis, people like that. And then risk operation. This is the guy you might pick up the phone and talk to if you have a problem. Or this is the guy who proactively identifies that there's something going on with your account, weird behavior, and they are telling you about it. 2,500 around the world, very proactive in many parts of the business, also reacting to what is coming in from customers. So 3 very core groups with kind of different remits in terms of how we manage what we are seeing on our site. Another way that we look at the structure, which I think is very important, is from a customer perspective and an end-to-end user type flow. So it starts with being aware, knowing And I ask everyone in the audience, well, have you heard of PayPal, first of all? Secondly, what do you think? When someone says PayPal to you, when you're at dinner with someone, what is the very first thing that enters your head? Is it, oh, geez, risky, don't go there, I know a guy who got ripped off? Or is it, oh, yeah, but personally, actually, I've sold or bought and sold more than 500 things through PayPal and eBay. I've never had a problem. And is that what someone's telling you, or are they telling you the former? It's really impacting what you feel and what you know. So obviously, I believe that it's all about an informed decision, right? I mean, I can sit here and tell you, it's safe, use it. And you're probably going to go, yeah, of course you're going to say that. What I'd rather tell you is, I'd rather inform your decision. I'd rather tell you, here's what we do, here's how you avoid problems, here's what can go wrong. And it's just an informed decision. And then it's up to you whether you decide to trust me or not. And that is what our marketing, PR, and outreach activity is about. Informing decisions, that people make their own decision, rather than us trying to sell a decision to you. And GetSafe Online is an organization that I feel strongly about. I've been around for a long time. I hope some of you might have heard of it, especially because Mr. Tony Neat, a good friend of mine, is the MD and one of the big proponents of GetSafe Online. But it's a great way. It's a partnership, in case you don't know, between government, law enforcement, and industry, private sector, who are pushing the message and the awareness of online issues to your average consumer and small businesses, and trying to get them to understand these issues. So I'd encourage you to go have a look if you haven't. There's good information on there in basic layman's terms, which was a key piece. You won't hear a lot of all the terminology, and or it will be explained if you do hear it. Secondly, sign up, login. So, I've decided I like PayPal. I'm going to set up an account. I'm going to go do something on PayPal. How do we know that you are who you say you are, not just the first time you sign up, but every time you then log in after that? Huge challenge. The internet's about anonymity, but I don't like that. I need to know who you are, and I need to know you are who you say you are. One key thing that we do, I think, is very important, and I encourage people to use this idea in the way that's relevant to your businesses, but just pass on the minimal amount of information that you need to pass on if you are taking someone's information and passing it to someone else. Obviously, there's PCI compliance and all these things you need to abide by, but beyond that, we pass on, if you're a buyer, we pass on your email address and your physical shipping address if it's an item that you're buying and someone obviously needs to ship it to you. That's all. The seller will never see your credit card details, your bank account information, or anything else they don't need to see. And that concept of pass on the minimal amount of information, because your risk is proportional to how much you pass on. So we try to abide by that. We have a security key, second factor authentication, classic form. We have the token with a randomly generated number. We have an SMS form where you can just have it sent to a pre-registered mobile phone. So again, that fast, easy, secure. We try to balance security with actually making it as fast and easy for you as possible. Then there's buying and selling something. Now, really, that should probably be sending money and receiving money. You don't always buy, sell. You might just be sending money to someone. But this is where it all happens, right? This is the, that volume and velocity that we talked about before. It's where it all happens. And every single one of these transactions, vetted, checked, it runs through our filters, our rules, and all our models, all the technical stuff that happens on the back end. We work with companies like Third Man to help us do that, and we're involved in the European Financial Coalition with Microsoft and MasterCard, Visa, people like that. And Fraud Science is actually very interesting. It's a company based in Tel Aviv in Israel. With a huge group of ex-Israeli intelligence guys running it. Very smart, very organized. What they do is basically take a minimal amount of information from you and score it and come back with a score that says there's 80% chance this person is probably dodgy and is going to get up to something. Or there's 100%, or there's 0%. And that obviously influences what I can then do with that information is excellent. I can either let that person through, or I can block them and try to ask for more information. They do this very well, minimal information. We purchased that organization about 18 months ago now, I think, for about 170 million, I think, a lot of money, but we've certainly seen a lot of value back from that. Resolve problems. I think this is a key area that many companies, especially in the early days, tend to neglect. Look, we live in the real world, okay? The virtual world is the virtual world, but it's still part of the real world. Things are going to go wrong, no matter how good or bad we are at it, no matter how hard we try, things are going to go wrong. So you've got to be there for the customer when something goes wrong. How do you resolve, how do you do dispute resolution? How do you resolve the problem? Do you have a protection program so people get their money back? Really important.